What's up, everybody on YouTube? It's your boy, the Memphis XLR8, coming at you with the deck profile for Satellite Cannon Castle Lockdown. So, for our main monsters, we have Satellite Cannon at 3. We have Adea the Heavenly Squire at 3. 3 Eidos the Underworld Squire. 3 Magician's Soul. 1 Palladium Oracle Mana. 3 Majesty's Fiend. For our spell lineup, we have Pantheism of the Monarchs. 3 March of the Monarchs, 2 Spellbook Secret, 3 Domain of the Monarchs, 1 Terraforming, 1 Reinforcement Army, triple Call by the Grave, triple Spellbook O Knowledge, as well as 2 Tenacity of the Monarchs. Our trap cards include 3 Monarchs Erupt, as well as 2 copies of Meteor Rain. We are playing no extra deck this time around, as we are playing the Domain Lock. As for our side deck, I'll go over that in a little bit. So this deck came about when one of my subs actually asked me what I would do for Satellite Cannon, and I gave him some suggestions. Then I started making the deck myself, and it's been, I'm not gonna lie, folks, it's been a bit of a tricky thing. The Satellite Cannon is a really old card that has no protection except from being battled against. And so it was a bit of a difficult thing trying to figure out a deck where you could summon this thing, as well as make it make it last long enough. Because if you don't know what Satellite Cannon does, basically every one of your end phases it'll gain 1,000 attack points. That's about it, and it loses all the attack after it does attack. So basically, you have to wait at least 8 turns, possibly even more, to have enough attack on this thing for one shot your opponents. Combining this with like Meteor Rain, etc., etc. So it was a bit of a tricky thing. So basically, what I came up with is that I combined them with the Monarch engine, where I was just summoning Adea, summoning Eidos, using Eidos as tribute fodder for cannon, and then I kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So basically, I came up with this abomination, where I'm just trying to get out as much draw power, and I'm just drawing as many cards as I can, trying to get my tribute monsters, trying to get tribute fodder, which is not that difficult to do. It's just with a deck like this with a lot of different moving parts, sometimes you brick. In fact, this deck is still somewhat bricky, despite all I've been doing. I think, Pantheism went to 3, or even did 2. This deck would be monumentally better. It really would be. So, like I said, our main focus, Satellite Cannon, of course. Our main tribute fodder being Adea, Eidos, as well as the Magician's Souls. And we also, of course, have a side monster because just relying on Satellite Cannon in this deck wasn't working out. So I picked Majesty's Fiend just because he's another lockdown card. Works the same way as Monarchs Erupt, no monster effects can activate. It's a bit of a tricky thing, because sometimes it contrasts with Satellite Cannon. But if you can get Monarchs Erupt, you don't need Majesty's Fiend as much. So, you can tribute this dude off 4 cannon. It works just fine. So, one of our main monsters here, Magician's Soul, you special summon him. All you have to do is ditch a level 6 or higher spellcaster from your deck to the graveyard, which is why Oracle Mana is in this deck, is specifically because of Magician's Soul. But Soul has a really nice effect where I can ditch 2 spell traps from my hand or field to draw 2 cards. Obviously, we want to keep drawing. And this guy really helps if you can ditch cards that you already have like multiple copies of. Like if you had 2 March of Monarchs, you can ditch one or both of them if you prefer, and just keep drawing cards. It really works with Pantheism because you can ditch this and then banish this card in order to search out pretty much whatever Monarch card you want. It's a pretty nice thing. So, like I said, the main focus of this deck, we're trying to summon out a monster, tribute into one of these 2, and then we lock our opponent out of stuff. We're trying to lock them out of their monster effects. We lock them out of the extra deck with Domain of the True Monarchs, as well as having March of the Monarchs, which basically is just here to give our monster protection. Like I said, Satellite Cannon has no protection built into himself. This card basically just gives your tribute summon monsters targeted and destruction to protection, which is nice when you're trying to keep a monster like Satellite Cannon on the board for multiple turns. So it's a nice little thing. Nice little thing. And like I said, the deck has a lot of moving parts. Sometimes you're not going to get everything. On a rare occasion, you'll get everything, but most times you have to make do with just one bit of lockdown or one bit of protection. Just do what you got to do. So, as well as all of I said, we have search powers. Of course, secret book searches out our spellbook O Knowledge. Spellbook, you get rid of a spellcaster you control or a spellbook card in your hand, except for itself. Draw 2 cards. Nice little bit of draw power. Works with our monsters because both Eidos and Souls are spellcasters. So that works rather well. Tenacity of the Monarch, of course, lets us reveal a monster's 2,400 attack and 1,000 defense. and add any Monarch spell trap from our deck to our hand. And of course, Majesty's Fiend is a 2400 attack monster with 1000 defense, which is why I'm picking him over Vanity's Fiend, is because Fiend has 1200 defense. That's the main reason why Fiend is in here rather than other Fiend. So, yeah. Basically, the whole idea, like I said, you're just summoning out these dudes, lock your opponent out. If you manage to get, like, Fiend and Domain and March of the Monarchs on the field, your opponent's not going to have a fun time unless they just board wipe you or kaiju you. They're going to have a really hard time getting around this boy. So it's a nice little deck. It's very casually minded, Meteor Rain being a very old piercing damage card. But because, March of the Monarchs protects your monster from your own targeting, I couldn't use a lot of other cards that, give your monsters piercing damage. And this just works just fine. You get yourself up to 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, whatever you feel like getting up to. Meteor Rain, beat into your opponent, do the piercing damage. It's a nice, fun, casual deck. I feel like in the future could get even better. Like I said, if Pantheism was just at 2, this deck would be a lot better. Because that'd be a lot more consistent drawing and searching of stuff. So as for our side deck, we have a few little things in here. Limit removal, a bit of an obvious thing for doubling the attack of Satellite Cannon. It's a nice thing, but since we don't always go into Satellite Cannon, we sometimes go for Fiend. Don't need this as often, and I'd rather just keep drawing and drawing and drawing, so, it can be useful, but it doesn't always work. Cosmic Cyclone's really good if you're going up against, like, Mystic Mine or something, a card which I refused to play in this deck because that was a little too degenerate. Locking out the extra deck is degenerate, but Mystic Mine is a level above, so this is good if you go up against a deck like that. 1-for-1, really good for just turboing out one of your level 1 monsters being Adea or Magician's Souls. Either one works. But I usually don't have any trouble getting to them, but if you find that you do, go ahead and try running 1-for-1. We also have Summon Limit, and there can only be one as additional sort of lockdown, stally sort of cards. We don't summon too many monsters in this deck. On occasion, you will. And, of course, we all have different types. We have Machine, Warriors, Spellcaster, and Fiend type monsters. So there can only be one is also a nice little, addition to this deck that can be useful. So run at your discretion if you don't feel like using Monarch's Erupt or what have you. Or you don't want to rely on these to lock out your opponent in their swarming and such. The Huge Revolution is over. It's an interesting card. It basically protects you from, the field nuking of such. You basically, if your opponent tries to, like, Kaiju Slumber you or Lightning Storm you, this will negate and banish the card. And I was running this at first, but I really needed more draw power, so if you feel like you're getting nuked too much, go ahead and tack in a copy or two. But don't always expect it to save your butt, but it can on occasion. Stormforth is just a typical, sort of tribute support card. Tribute your opponent's monsters instead of your own. It can be useful for getting over annoying boss monsters, and you're welcome to tech that in. Replacing some of the Monarch spell traps. If you don't want as many domains, you can take one or two of them out. Put in Stormforth and just, tribute your opponent's monsters for your monsters. Or use Stormforth as, discard that for souls, or what was the other thing? There was another thing, and my brain is not working, but yeah. Then we got Machine Dupe, which is another interesting card. Basically, you can target a machine 1,000 or 500 less attack, summon all the copies of that monster from your deck. So basically allowing you to turbo all 3 satellite cannons, but you're not always going to get into satellite cannon as much as I'd love to keep going into them. There's really not much search for specific monster like satellite cannon, which is why I didn't run the Machine Dupe. But if you want to try your luck at it, go right ahead. Cauldron of Old Man or any burn card is a welcome addition into this deck as well. Just to make it so you don't need to hit your opponent as much with as much damage. You burn your opponent a little bit. It takes a few less turns of Satellite Cannon to get the attack power it needs to hit your opponent. So any sort of burn strategy you want to mix into this deck, I recommend Cauldron just because, but do whatever you want. Spell Canceller and Vanity's Fiend are additional tribute monsters if you want to give them a try. Spell Canceller, as its name implies, negates spells, and Vanity's Fiend prevents summoning from, special summons in general. Now, both are welcome additions. You can use either one, or, I would replace, obviously, Majesty's Fiend, seeing as the deck is all about Satellite Cannon, and you can do either or. If you want to stop your opponent's spells and lock them out with Monarch's Erupt, go right ahead. If you want to lock out special summons and extra deck, even though that's kind of superfluous, but you could do that. Either one works out. So this was my attempt at breaking Satellite Cannon. It's still a work in progress. I think the deck works on occasion, but there's so, like I said, so many moving parts. So many moving parts that it doesn't always work. Really, I wish that Konami would like make an archetype out of this. Please, please, Konami, do that. I would appreciate very much. I would appreciate very much. And normally this would be where I would show off some replays of this deck working. But the only ones I have working involve, Majesty's Fiend. So unfortunately, don't have any replays of this at the moment. If I ever do, I'm gonna keep trying to. I will definitely show that off in a future video. But for now, I hope you guys did enjoy this deck profile. Let me know in the comments what you would change about this deck in any sort of way. Any tech cards I've obviously missed that I'm just being a dummy and not noticing. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed very much. And your boy Memphis signing out for now. More decks to do, more cards to play. And I'll see you guys again next time with more Yu-Gi-Oh! Action. So, till then, y'all take care now.